Everybody, it's Nikki, and I'm here to do another video that's my personal experience, not to be used as medical advice. I made a nice long post for my Facebook group today, basically about my start of day 7 and just some thoughts on it, because it's been a mind-blowing, and not in a bad way this time, just a straight up mind-blowing experience for the last couple of days. Mainly because, and it hurts me to even say it, but mainly because auto mode appears to have my blood sugar in check. And this is nothing but pure surprise to me, because all of my memories from a year ago, more or less, are just that auto mode could not handle my blood sugar. Now I have theories until the day is done, and I also have a whole lot of skepticism, because of course I do. And my main thought is that I'm about 7 days into this, and there's a few possible things going on that maybe could, explain it. But I'm also not going to be so quick to start celebrating, because I also know that auto mode can start off strong and then kind of just start to peter out. That's how I said it in the group. I'm going to repeat myself a lot from that post, but it can start off strong and then peter out. And so for all I know, when I started in auto mode a year and 3 months ago, whatever it was, it's possible to do this over the first week too. And maybe I just had no idea what was going on in that first month or first month and a half. So some good numbers could have slipped by me before I started to pick up on the patterns I didn't like. However, a couple things. One, this is something I'm far more familiar with. And this is classic auto mode for me. The only thing that's not really classic is that solid string of microboluses. And that's what I had to write about this morning, because on day 7 of my, re-entry into auto mode, I'm getting a ton of insulin. And that is it's just really different than what happened my first time around. In fact, I have been tracking all of my microboluses. I've done it for the last couple of days. I do plan on going on tidepool.org in order to see if I can get my microboluses from a couple of days ago. But I've been tracking at least for 45 hours now. I haven't been awake and doing it. I can do it through my graph screen. And what I have found is that almost 50% of that time, I have received more than 100% of my manual mode basal rate. And that's insane. I can hear my kid rage quitting a game right now, so I'm going to give him 1 second and then go tend to it. And it stopped. Okay. Anyway, it's been 50% of the time I've gotten more than 100% of what my manual mode rate would be. And the last time I was in, I remember, a 96, 97%. If I had gotten that much of my regular manual mode, then I was going to call that 100%, because I was as close as I would get. And I would spend hours and hours and hours receiving, as I've said, this reduced, insulin delivery. And it would be sometimes 16%, 30%, 48%, and then I'd get hit with a 96%. Well, in that case, 96% is not enough. But this last couple of days, I've gotten 186% of my manual mode rate. 160, 140, 138. I mean, it's this regular thing. So I don't really understand why, because I have not changed any settings. I'm not doing anything at all. I just entered. That's all I did. So I do have a couple theories, a few possibilities. One is my SG, my sensor value, is actually reading higher than it usually does. And in fact, it's reading higher than my BG. Not every time, but say 25% of the time. For instance, today for a couple of hours, my BG was a 125 or 126. And my SG was reading a 156. So I continued to get microboluses. I think had it accurately reflected my BG, I kind of think that either it would have reduced those micros or it would have knocked them out, because I would have been closer to that target 120. I've also, and I know I talk about the calibration factor a lot, but I do think that that's how auto mode determines the microbolus size. And something has been weird with my calibration factors for 5 months now, 6 months, whatever it's been. And they're just elevated. Well, in this case, if I have both a higher than average or higher than usual SG, as well as a calibration factor that's elevated, and I think that calibration factor is how auto mode is able to look at your trend. Well, it looks to auto as if my blood sugar is floating and trending up a little bit, and I think it means it's delivering more micros to me. That is pure theory based on nothing but me writing down numbers for a year. And in my mind, that's all I need, but I can understand and wouldn't want, another person to base anything on that. But I'm like, there's something different. I'm getting 0.15 micros, 11 of them in an hour. And the last time I was in auto mode, I would get maybe one of those when my blood sugar was at 348 and rising. So there's definitely something different. I do think that maybe possibly the SG, maybe possibly the calibration factor. I also realize that this time around, I'm sitting and doing Facebook and FU diabetes, FUD. I do that all day long, and my kids are in school now, so I'm no longer just at a wind sprint from the time I get up in the morning until the time I go to bed at night. I'm also injured and haven't been able to exercise. So as far as activity level, I've dropped way down. So that's a good reason for me to get back up and see what happens with that. I'd like to get back up. So those are some possible theories. And I did have one other one. Oh, this one is kind of, the next one is also that maybe it's all gonna start to change, and that's possible. And then, and maybe over the next couple of days, it's gonna start to wind down a little bit. That's possible. That would be sad, but that could be it. And then the only other thing I was thinking, and this is a little far-fetched, but you never know. I called Medtronic last Monday, as I was entering auto mode to get their most recent advice. And the very nice representative, we talked about my concerns with not getting enough insulin. And I said, so what should I do? Should I go in for 3 days and just stick it out and make myself stay in? Do you think that would be long enough? And she said, well, you know what? I don't think I would go in and stay in first. She said, I think I would go in for about a week and leave every time you need insulin. And I was kind of like, okay. And she said, if you do that, then auto mode will learn that you need the insulin. She said, if you just stay in there, it's just trying to work it out, but it doesn't see that you need more insulin. So this feels like hocus pocus every time I talk about whether or not auto mode is going to see and learn and everything else. But, and I didn't do it for a week, but I think for 4 days, I went into auto, and as soon as it started to stink it up, because it did, I would get back out and I would do a bolus of 2 or 3 units, sometimes 4, whatever it was that it took. And then I would go back in. And in general, I wasn't having very many crashes. So I guess there is some possibility that auto mode learned that I needed that insulin. And so it's delivering more insulin right now. That would be an easy enough fix if that were the case. What I can say is my first couple of days in auto mode were pretty miserable. It was running me high again. It was starting to do that. I was just getting out every time I saw a problem. I was preemptively doing insulin based on my memories of auto mode. And sometimes it was exactly what I needed. Sometimes it was way too much. And it was just, and it just felt like I wasn't paying any attention. I was just in there. And it was a pretty miserable couple of days. That's when I decided I just can't do it like that. Either get out and be done, or get in and really pay attention. And that's when I started to mark these micros and everything else. And so I'm really, really paying attention now. And it's why, even though I know I'm rising right now, and I believe that it's because it's doing it, it's doing its old thing, I'm not running for manual mode because I'm going to see. I've been getting a lot more insulin in it as of the last 2 days, including 186% of my manual mode rate. I can't get that in manual mode, so I might as well give it a chance and see if it can handle its own. And I'm still going up. So my guess is, so I'll test one time just to see, because sometimes that 192 is a 192. If I'm, it's a slow rise and it's caught up and I've stopped rising. Sometimes it's really like a 168. If I've turned around and started to fall, I'm not going to bank on that. And sometimes it's like a 240. And if it's a 240, I'm out and I'll go and I'll do my insulin. And it's a 202. That's crap. I don't like that at all. And I know why I did it. Because it did hit me during, I danced for 30 minutes, and it did hit me with some minimum delivery, and then it did slow down my micros following that. I tried to avoid that, but I couldn't. And so now that is kind of crap, but I can do that kind of crap with my own exercise routine. So in manual mode. So I think I'll let it try to work it out. Anyway, that's it. It's day 7, and my last couple of days have been pretty miserable, and I think I've said some very mean things about auto mode and maybe to people. I don't know. So I'm here to say it's been an interesting day. I'm not holding my breath that this is the way it's going to go. But thanks for watching. Have a good day. Bye.